What if I told you that one of the most successful fighter planes of World War II started its life as an outright failure? A machine so massive, so seemingly ill-suited for its original role that its designers were practically laughed out of the room. Welcome to Historical Digs. For today, we retell the unlikely story of the P-47 Thunderbolt, an aircraft described as an airborne tank that would go on to rewrite the manual on close air support and become a true legend of the skies. The elephant in the room. The year is 1940, and the skies over Europe are chaotic. Britain is fighting for its life, and American strategists are looking for a new fighter to dominate the high-altitude realm, particularly as an escort for bombers. Republic Aviation, led by the brilliant but uncompromising Alexander Kartveli, offered up a behemoth prototype, the XP-47B, which would later become the P-47 Thunderbolt. On paper, it was almost comically oversized for a fighter. Weighing in at over 10,000 pounds empty, nearly twice the weight of a Spitfire, it earned the affectionate and slightly dismissive nickname, the Jug. The sheer bulk of its Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp radial engine, a 2,000 horsepower monster, dictated much of its design. This engine was a marvel of engineering, a roaring cascade of cylinders that required an equally massive air scoop and supercharger system, forcing Kartveli to design around it in a way that prioritized power and performance over elegance. This wasn't just a big engine, it was practically a small building. The massive super turbocharger, essential for high-altitude performance, was located in the rear fuselage, requiring a long, intricate ducting system from the nose to the tail and back again. This serpentine pathway, while ingenious, added significant weight and complexity. Early test flights, commencing with the XP-47B's maiden flight on May 6, 1941, confirmed the skepticism. The P-47 proved a capable high-altitude interceptor, climbing impressively and hitting speeds over 400 miles per hour. However, its immense fuel consumption meant its range was severely limited. For escorting bombers deep into enemy territory, the Jug was simply too thirsty, leaving its bomber charges vulnerable well before they reached their targets. The initial dream of a long-range escort fighter seemed dead on arrival, and critics were quick to pronounce the P-47 a costly white elephant. It was considered too heavy, too clumsy in dogfights, and fundamentally unsuited for the strategic bombing campaigns that were beginning to take shape. The air staff was already looking at other, lighter designs. Before we dive deeper into the P-47 Thunderbolt story, hit that like button and subscribe to Historical Digs. Your support helps us unearth the untold stories of aviation's most battle-hardened war machines. In a twist of fate, the very characteristics that made the P-47 a mediocre high-altitude escort, its robust airframe, powerful engine, and sheer mass, would become its greatest assets in a role no one had quite envisioned. What if, instead of delicate aerial duels, this brute was built for a different kind of fight entirely? What if its perceived weaknesses were, in fact, the keys to unlocking a brutal, effective new form of air power? The answer lay not in the thin air of the stratosphere, but screaming low over the muddy fields of France and the dense jungles of the Pacific. The Jug finds its calling. The P-47's early struggles as an escort fighter forced a radical rethinking of its purpose. While it possessed excellent dive performance and respectable top speed, its turning radius left much to be desired when pitted against the nimbler FW-190s and BF-109s. It wasn't exactly dancing on air, but its sheer structural integrity, a byproduct of its heavy construction, hinted at a different destiny. The Thunderbolt was built like a brick outhouse, or perhaps more accurately, a flying freight train. Its wings, thick and sturdy, could house 8 50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns, 4 in each wing. That's a staggering amount of firepower for a single-engine fighter, capable of delivering a torrent of lead that could tear apart anything in its path. Each weapon was fed by a generous ammunition supply, ensuring sustained fire in protracted engagements. This formidable armament, combined with an airframe that could absorb astonishing amounts of damage, made it an ideal candidate for ground attack. While other fighters might crumble under flak or struggle to carry substantial ordnance, the P-47 was designed to take a beating and keep flying. Its radial engine, unlike liquid-cooled inline engines, was less vulnerable to single hits. If one cylinder was damaged, the others could often keep the engine running, giving pilots a fighting chance to return home. This inherent toughness, coupled with a well-armored cockpit and a self-sealing fuel tank system, meant the P-47 was uniquely suited to the hellish environment of the low-level battlefield. Pilots began to appreciate that this jug wasn't elegant, but it was incredibly resilient. They reportedly called it the safest fighter of the war, not because it was immune to damage, but because it could survive damage that would down most planes. The transition wasn't immediate, but necessity is, after all, the mother of invention. As the air war evolved, the need for direct support for ground troops became increasingly critical. While fighters like the Spitfire and Mustang excelled at air-to-air combat, their lighter construction and limited ordnance capacity made them less effective in the brutal world of strafing and dive bombing. It was a different ballgame, and the P-47, with its capacity to carry up to 2,500 pounds of bombs or 10 5-inch rockets, in addition to its 8 machine guns, had stepped into the field. It could deliver a punch that few other single-engine aircraft could match. This transformation from high-altitude escort disappointment to ground-pounding titan was nothing short of revolutionary, proving that sometimes the best role for a weapon isn't the one it was originally designed for, but the one it's best built for. The European Hammer. Let's rewind to the spring of 1943. The P-47B or C Thunderbolt, initially dismissed by many, began proving its mettle in the brutal skies over Europe. Its reputation gradually shifted from clumsy to unbreakable. While it couldn't outturn a Focke-Wulf 190 in a horizontal maneuver, it could outdive anything the Luftwaffe threw at it, a critical advantage that pilots used to disengage or strike with devastating momentum. A common tactic for P-47 pilots, perfected by aces like Francis Gabreski and Robert S. Johnson, was the boom and zoom. They would use the jug's immense speed and excellent dive capabilities to plunge from altitude, make a swift, devastating attack, and then zoom back up to regain the energy advantage, leaving bewildered German pilots in their wake. This wasn't elegant dogfighting, nor it was trying to be. It was a pure application of physics and raw power. But the real revelation came when the P-47 pivoted to ground attack operations in 1944. Its heavy armament and robust construction made it a devastating weapon against German convoys, railway lines, and fortified positions. Pilots quickly discovered that the 850 caliber machine guns, firing at a combined rate of over 6,000 rounds per minute, could shred anything from locomotives to lightly armored vehicles. The P-47 became the bane of German logistics, systematically destroying supply lines and disrupting troop movements. It was like flying a tank, pilots would often say, a testament to its incredible resilience. They could fly through a hail of small arms firing flak, absorb hits that would cripple other aircraft, and still return to base, often riddled with bullet holes but fundamentally intact. This ability to absorb punishment built immense confidence among pilots, fostering an aggressive flying style that maximized the jug's capabilities. The P-47 also played a crucial role in the preparations for and execution of D-Day. As Allied forces pushed across France, the Thunderbolt became the ultimate airborne artillery, providing crucial close air support for advancing ground troops. It would sweep ahead of infantry columns, clearing out machine gun nests, silencing anti-aircraft positions, and breaking up enemy concentrations. The sheer psychological impact of a squadron of P-47s screaming down, guns blazing, and rockets trailing smoke was often enough to break enemy morale. Accounts from both Allied and German sources attest to the Thunderbolt's effectiveness. German soldiers came to dread the distinctive roar of its radial engine, knowing that a Yabo or fighter-bomber attack was imminent. Its ability to carry a heavy load of bombs or rockets meant it could function as a precision bomber, capable of destroying bridges, bunkers, and lightly armored vehicles with well-aimed strikes. P-47 annihilated everything in its path, becoming the definitive ground attack aircraft of the European theater and earning its place as a battlefield king. Adapting to a new jungle. While the P-47 was reshaping the battlefield in Europe, a different kind of war was raging in the Pacific. Here, the vast distances, extreme humidity, and challenging terrain presented a unique set of obstacles for any aircraft. The initial perception was that the heavy, short-legged Thunderbolt wouldn't be suitable for the sprawling island campaigns. However, much like in Europe, the jug defied expectations and found its niche, becoming an indispensable tool for Allied forces battling the Japanese from New Guinea to the Philippines and Okinawa. The tropical climate of the Pacific was notoriously harsh on aircraft. High temperatures and humidity degraded engine performance and accelerated wear on airframes. The P-47's robust Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, known for its reliability and power output even in challenging conditions, proved remarkably resilient in the Pacific's unforgiving environment. Its air-cooled design was also less susceptible to the coolant system failures that plagued liquid-cooled engines in the intense heat. Furthermore, the Jug's exceptional dive capabilities, a hallmark of its design, were particularly useful in the Pacific theater, where Japanese forces often entrenched themselves in heavily fortified caves and bunkers. P-47 pilots would scream down in near-vertical dives, delivering bombs and rockets with effective precision against hardened targets, often avoiding the need for costly infantry assaults. Beyond direct attack, the P-47's sheer range, when equipped with drop tanks, allowed it to operate over vast stretches of ocean and island chains. Though initially limited, the P-47's range was significantly extended by later modifications and the strategic use of external fuel tanks, allowing the P-47 D-25+ models to escort bombers up to 400 to 500 miles out. Crucially, the P-47N variant, purpose-built and introduced in 1945, featured extended wings and increased internal fuel capacity, specifically for the immense distances of Iwo Jima to Japan escort missions. Its incredible durability, already a legend in Europe, was equally vital here. Flying over endless water or dense jungle meant that any damage could be catastrophic, and the P-47's ability to limp home after sustaining severe battle damage saved countless pilot lives. This resilience fostered an aggressive approach among pilots who knew their Jug could take a hit and keep fighting. From blasting Japanese coastal defenses to providing critical air cover for amphibious landings, the P-47 Thunderbolt carved out a new legacy in the Pacific, cementing its reputation not just as a versatile fighter, but as a true workhorse of the Allied war effort. It proved that raw power, durability, and adaptability, not just sleekness or speed, were the true measures of a warplane's worth. The P-47 Thunderbolt, the unloved behemoth that almost never made it, ultimately became a cornerstone of Allied air superiority. It became the backbone of the USAAF in both Europe and the Pacific, flying over 746,000 sorties during the war. The P-47 was also produced in over 15,600 units, second only to the P-51 among USAAF fighters. So, what do you think? Was the P-47's success purely a result of its brute strength, or the adaptability of its designers and pilots? Let us know your take in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to join us on the next historical dig. Until then, remember, history is full of hidden gems if you know where to dig.